we are starting with recent news. So the most recent news, the one that's got everybody shocked, I mean even us shocked, right, is the Pasir Ris 8 launch over the weekend. So while I wouldn't say I was surprised by the take-up rate, right, the 85% take-up rate of Pasir Ris 8, I would say what surprised me was the eventual PSF that was achieved at that development at 2000 PSF. And 2000 PSF was not for a one-bedder, it was actually for a two-bedder. If you read the article, which is available on our Facebook page, there was a two-bedder that was transacted at $1.5 million. So that is a 700 square feet two-bedder in Pasir Ris that was transacted at 1.5 million. And for somebody that's in the market has seen the high PSFs, that's honestly quite a shocker to us as well. So, but we did. While we didn't exactly predict it hitting the 2000 PSF, we did predict how aggressive the developers would have been. Yeah, in our video done earlier this year about the 3 things we like and don't like about Pasir Ris 8. So like one of basically the very first thing that we highlighted that we did not like was the timing of the launch, because the market is moving so quickly at this point in time. Developer stock is coming down so quickly, there being not many options, there being huge pent-up demand. The ball really is in the developers' court to do what they want to do. So we've also seen comments on Facebook. With I saw this somebody posting it on his own Facebook page about how they queued up for 2 hours. They went down in the morning expecting to pay $1.2 million for the two-bedder, and then ended up paying $1.5 million for the two-bedder later on in the evening, with the developers raising the prices 6 times during the launch. So this is something that is not new to the market. Yeah, it's not new to the market. While the PSF is new, 2000 for Pasir Ris is not something that's new to the market. So if you want to see what else we predicted, how accurate was our predictions for Pasir Ris 8, you could check out our video. I'm going to put in the link in the description, in the comments. Do check it out. And then since we are on accurate predictions, let's also see how accurate our predictions are for the upcoming launch at Bartley View. So the video is just out earlier this week. So check it out. Let me know what you think. It's in the same format as what we did for Pasir Ris 8 and as what we did for One North Eden, Normanton Park. So since we're on the topic of accurate predictions, you probably want to check it out if you want to see what you're going to expect from Bartley View. Next up, so like when I said that this wasn't new, developers being aggressive in doing a launch, high take-up rates during a launch, it's because we've seen it all before, and it was just 3 years before at Twin View. And scarily enough, the take-up rate was exactly the same at 85%. Exactly the same, as uncanny, as scary as it is. 85%, exactly the same. So I've also highlighted what some of the analysts were saying. It sounds very, very similar, because over at Twin View, CDL bought the plot, which is today's Worcester Grand, at a much higher PSF. So people are taking those future PSFs as reference to existing launches, the value in existing launches, right? I'm going to touch on that later on as well. So very, very scary in terms of the uncanny resemblance of these two events. So like you can see, right? 85%, 3 years apart. Okay, and the similarities in what is happening in the market today doesn't stop there, as we can see with the next chart as well. So it's deja vu times 2. And this one I highlighted in the, I believe it was the June Facebook Live, about how the government is noticing what is happening in the market and noticing that the supply is not enough, which is why they're increasing the supply. So wow, if you just simply read the headline, increasing the supply by 25%, because I had clients coming to me and being quite concerned that wow, the land supply comes up, basic economics, if high supply and demand is not high enough, the prices will drop. But if you really go and look at the data, this increase is nowhere near enough. So for those who are new to the channel, we love to use supply factors to forecast the market. Why? Because supply, especially in real estate, is very, very inelastic. You cannot supply and you cannot have houses appear out of nowhere. You have to sell the land today to feed the demand 3 to 4 years down the road. And the huge challenge the government is facing today is that with COVID making everything so uncertain, they really do not know, even if they put out the land today, when are they expecting that supply to come online. Over at the HDB side, they are forecasting it to take 6 to 7 years to get that supply online. So this is creating a lot of uncertainties in the market, and it's making it absolute hell for the regulators to try to manage this. So and they have, even without COVID, they have had trouble managing this whole supply thing, as we can see later on, right, in our example. So the government just cannot seem to get this whole supply thing right, and that creates gaps in the market for those who know how to analyze. And for those of you who follow us on a consistent basis, you know how much we love to analyze supply charts and the gaps that we are spotting. So stay on with us, and I'm going to point out to you those gaps later on as well, the gaps that we ourselves use in our own portfolio planning. And of course, we cannot talk about, right, deja vu, we cannot talk about similarities with what is happening in the market without addressing the elephant in the room. The previous 16, 17, 18 cycle cumulated with the property cooling measures on 5th July 2018, resulting in the rush that we see over here. So I talk in detail about what we think about the cooling measures, how we feel that it's going to affect the market. So if you want to understand cooling measures and our thoughts about cooling measures a little bit more, we are also going to put the link in the description below of our sharing for the cooling measures. So do check that out. It's going to be a lot more relevant today than when we did it in May. So, of course, the question everybody will be asking us for sure is, what do we think is going to happen? Do we expect there to be cooling measures? So I'm going to go out on a limb, and based on the information that we have today, I'm putting out my prediction at 60-40, with 60% being no and 40% being yes. So I'm weighing more towards no. Why? Because of the significant difference in supply today versus where it was in 2018. So follow me. In 2018, when the cooling measures came, there was a huge amount of supply coming onto the market due to the en bloc sales. So the prices were shooting up together with huge supply coming online. And so at the high prices, the developers also took advantage of the market being very, very hot and pushing the prices up significantly. But today, there isn't a lot of upcoming supply that we have. Later on, I'm going to share with you with the more the TOP supply chart. And then it's going to be a lot more evident. So there's, of course, right, even though the government have increased the supply by 25%, as you have seen in the previous article, in my opinion, it's not enough. And And we are also almost through, sold through the developer existing stock. Yes, dipped below the 20,000 mark, which was the marker the last time when over in 2016 when the developer stock dipped below 20,000, it kick-started the whole en bloc rush. But today we have dipped below it, and the developers are still quite conservative and not daring to come into the en bloc market. So it's key for us to remember why the government implements cooling measures. It is to avoid huge swing in prices. They don't want prices to go up very, very quickly and then drop very, very quickly. So it is to prevent swings. It is not intended to cause the swing. Okay, I repeat again. It's intended to prevent swings and not to cause swings. So it's not the government's intention to crash the market. So again, right, in 2018, they were afraid of the huge incoming supply, and if the prices shoot up significantly out of the reach of Singaporeans, or if it shoots up very, very quickly and the developers cannot clear those stock, then they start cutting prices. So that's going to go create a price chart that goes up significantly and drops significantly, and that is going to put at the end of the day the consumers and the buyers at risk. So today, right, there is no fear of that oversupply coming online. As a matter of fact, there's going to be an undersupply. So you might argue that the government can try to implement a cooling measure to hold back the demand while supply slowly comes back online, but it's going to be a very tricky thing for the government to do, because if the pent-up demand floods back even stronger later on, that's still going to cause that huge swing. So which is why I said earlier, they're in a really big conundrum at this point in time. So my analogy is like a swing at the spring at this point in time. So with COVID delays, right, forcing demand in, right, then lack of supply again, squeezing the spring again. A huge number of HDB MOPs again squeezing that spring. So this spring is now severely compressed. Another cooling measure come online that's going to squeeze the spring even more, because like we said in our sharing, cooling measures are meant to put a pause on demand and not remove demand from the market. It did remove demand from the market in 2013 when the whole ABSD TDSR came about to suck out speculators from the market, but today there's very, very little speculators in the market. So if you ask me, will new cooling measures destroy demand? The answer is no. It puts a pause on demand. Okay? So, right, before I move on to the next slide, right, if this whole cooling measure thing is the single biggest thing weighing on your mind and holding you back from a purchase, then I would say you're not planning your purchase right. So if planning is done correctly, and something that we tell all our clients, if you buy today and cooling measures come tomorrow, you think that you will be very stressed out, you will lose sleep over it, then you aren't ready to buy. You haven't done sufficient planning to buy. So if you buy today and cooling measures really come tomorrow, you shouldn't be worried. Then in that case means you have done your planning right. So how to do it the right way? Just stick out with us, later I share with you how. So next slide. So this is the next big piece of news, the new land sales, and I probably think that this was the precursor that led to the whole Pasir Ris 8 bonanza, because people are seeing what the estimated sale prices will be like for the new supply. So what do I mean by new and old supply? Later on I'll share with you the TOP chart, and then you will understand a little bit more. So the Lentor site, right, was sold basically last week. Yeah, last week they announced the results of the tender. So Lentor, OCR, is going to have to sell in excess of 21,000 PSF. Tampines EC is going to have to sell in excess of 1,200 PSF. So this is with land cost and with developer break-even cost and a little bit of profit already factored inside. So just let that sink in. Just 2 years back, the previous supply, just 2 years back, what could you have bought these similar type of properties for? Let's take a look. And let me take this opportunity to have a drink also. So I've updated this chart of ours to show the recent land sale. So Lentor Central is at 1,204 PSF per plot ratio. I'm going to bring your attention to the very last line. So the Treasure at Tampines, it was launched 2 years thereabouts back. The land was bought 2 to 3 years, about 3 years back. That land cost was 676 PSF per plot ratio. So it has basically doubled because they are both in the OCR. Clairvaughn is also in the OCR. That was at 788 just about 1.5 years back. So it's almost like the average transacted PSF is just 190 PSF difference from the land cost over at Lentor Central. And people are starting to realize this, and that is why the demand is then flocking back into the previous batch of supply that we see. So comparing apples to apples, that's what you see. You want to compare, you can also compare the fact that Lentor Central at 1,204 PSF per plot ratio, the land cost is even higher than that of Copa at Newton, which is in the CCR. So this is OCR versus CCR. The land cost is basically the same. So future supply, the future benchmark prices have been set, and that is where we are headed to. So moving on to the next slide. So let me use this chart to illustrate a little bit on the progression of land costs. So we have seen the upcoming supply. So the upcoming supply for Lentor, it will be basically out of the screen that we see over here after 2025. So you see these two, it went up in 14, 15, 16, and then it came down. And then it came up again in 22, 23, 24, then it come down. So it will eventually come up again in 26, 27, 28. As once the manpower shortage is filled up, COVID is over, the government will ramp up supply again. So supply charts is always like that, going up, coming down, going up, coming down. So the previous peak in supply 14, 15, 16, just for reference, I picked out Park Vera, which is in Hougang. So the land cost for Park Vera, so on your left side, the left peak is at $339, $339 per square feet per plot ratio. Okay, 339. So that was the first peak on the extreme left that you see. Then the second peak, right, the peak at 22, 23, 24, we use Treasure at Tampines because it's going to TOP in 2022, 2023. So that one, the land cost 678. So we went from 339, the previous peak, to 676, the current peak, and the future peak, Lentor, that we saw was 1,200. So it's quite scary in the sense that it's basically doubling from 300 to 600, from 600 to 1,200. So every time a supply gets absorbed up, when the new supply comes online, it's always at a new price. And once this new supply gets absorbed up, the future supply will be at the new price. So for all of you who are listening, out in the market, looking to buy, you shouldn't be too concerned with the cooling measures, because if you wait and they don't come, the new supply is going to be a lot more expensive. Okay? So all these external factors, or this FOMO, or this doubt in the market, with the market moving so quickly, inevitably is resulting in a lot of stress. I'm actually speaking to quite a few clients at this moment that's feeling very stressed because the market is moving so quickly, and everybody can see where the future prices are at. That has already been established. When the first land sale came out at Tanah Merah, we sort of predicted this happening already, but people didn't really quite wrap their heads around that as yet. But with Ang Mo Kio and Lentor coming up back to back, and we have Jalan Anak Bukit coming up real soon as well, people are really accepting that is going to be the new benchmark prices set lah. So, and that's causing a lot of stress. So stress and fear comes from, I would say, a lack of knowledge and a lack of a clear plan. So let me very quickly summarize why is this happening, so that you can understand and you can start creating your plan, right, which we will talk about later on. So on the macro perspective, so macro meaning outside of Singapore, the whole world, interest rates are very low, coupled with high money supply, asset prices inevitably will come up. This is very standard economic fundamentals lah. Low interest rate, high money supply, asset prices definitely will come up. But is it in a bubble? Personally, I feel we are not in a bubble, and this is once we come back into Singapore. It's because we have all the cooling measures in place. We have ABSD, we have TDSR to keep the market sustainable, to remove speculation from the market, to remove over leverage in the market. So as opposed to previous sharp rises in prices, like the one we seen pre-2013, the market is in a much better place, much more sustainable place today. We also have a lot more savings today. The overall Singapore household balance sheet is in a net cash position versus pre-2013, where it was in a net debt position. So further look within Singapore, okay, like we've seen in the population census data, there's a higher preference for private properties, and it's been the trend over the past couple of census done. There's higher earning power. Remember the one that we were sharing, about 13.9% of the population are now earning a combined household income of in excess of 20,000, a sharp increase from the previous census done just 10 years back, where the bulk of the population, or the biggest group, I wouldn't say the bulk, the biggest group was made up of people earning combined household income of just 3,000 to 5,000. It has times 4 of that. Big jump in 10 years all the way to 20,000. So this, right, and also they are coming out of their HDB MOPs because there's a huge supply of HDB MOPs over the last couple of years, and for the foreseeable future because the government have pumped out a lot of HDB supply post 2011. So all this, all in all, is a lot of the analogy that I can give is a lot of firepower, a lot of dry powder in the market at this point in time. Huge savings, huge earning power, huge profits from their HDB ready to take action into the market. So, to summarize, right, is this predictable? Actually, we have predicted this to be happening if you have followed us over, I would say, we should check. We are probably above, have crossed our 1 year anniversary of doing this whole Facebook Live thing. But is it scary? It probably is, right? But why is it scary? Is because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of a clear plan. So don't be scared. That's why we have decided to do this session. Not just to tell you how to plan, but also to share how we did it as a case study. Yeah. So let's get into it. So if you have liked the sharing done so far, right, just a some advertisement time commercial break, and it's also for the YouTube algorithm. Please do help us like and subscribe and hit the bell notification button if you want to be notified of future videos that we put up. So we don't just do monthly Facebook live sharings, we also do condo reviews like the one you saw about Bartley View, which you can go and check it out. Okay.